Picture this. You turn the key in your front door and instantly you hear it. The frantic scratching of paws, the happy whimpers, that absolute explosion of pure, unadulterated joy. We all know that greeting, but what's actually driving it? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive right into the hidden psychology of the canine mind. We're going to peel back the layers to uncover the profound, scientifically backed emotional reality of what your dog is really experiencing when you leave them behind, and what is literally happening inside their brain when you finally come back home. So let's start with the moment you leave. To a dog, your departure isn't just a minor schedule change. It's a fundamental disruption of the reality. You see, dogs evolved from pack animals, and out in the wild, pack members just do not voluntarily isolate themselves. So when that front door clicks shut, to your dog, it's not a casual exit, it's an involuntary detachment from their pack. That single event kicks off a psychologically intense countdown in their mind. They are suddenly thrust into this highly unnatural state, just waiting for their social structure to be restored. Now, in the hours that follow, a really stark behavioral contrast emerges. For dogs without separation issues, time alone is mostly spent resting. Think of a golden retriever just snoozing in a sunbeam, conserving energy. But survey data reveals what's basically a hidden epidemic of anxiety. Up to 53% of owners believe their dogs suffer from separation-related behavior, or SRB. For these dogs, the silence of an empty house is agonizing. It triggers persistent physical restlessness and very visible heartbreaking stress. And if we look closely at how these anxious dogs behave when they're alone, we can actually decode their exact emotional state just by listening to them. Research shows that whining typically stems from a profound sense of fear and anxiety about the separation itself. Barking, on the other hand, is born out of deep frustration. It's the dog essentially demanding that an unreachable pack member return right now. Meanwhile, physical cues like excessive lip licking act as a displacement activity for stress, and heavy salivation, that often points to a full-blown panic response. Which brings up a completely fascinating question. How does a dog even comprehend how long you've been gone? They obviously aren't checking a clock on the wall, but they do have a biological superpower, a nose with over 200 million scent receptors. Canine cognition expert Alexandra Horowitz suggests that dogs literally smell time. When you leave, your scent in the house is fresh and super intense. As the hours pass, that scent slowly decays. A dog learns that when your scent concentration drops to a very specific, familiar threshold in the air, the door is about to open. So they aren't staring at a clock. They are literally smelling the future approaching. As that invisible scent-based clock winds down, anticipation builds toward the moment of your return. To understand the hard science of their love, neuroscientist Dr. Gregory Burns led this incredible project. His team actually trained dogs to willingly enter an fMRI scanner, totally unrestrained, completely unsedated, just to monitor their brain activity. They specifically zoomed in on the caudate nucleus. That's the region of the brain heavily associated with positive expectations, rewards, and social bonds. Basically, they wanted to see exactly what happens when a dog simply smells their human. The results of those scans were an absolute game changer. The researchers presented the dogs with all sorts of scents: strange dogs, strange humans, familiar dogs, and familiar humans. And out of all those smells, even the scent of a familiar dog they lived with, the scent of a familiar human triggered a maximal reward response in the caudate nucleus. This effectively proves something beautiful. Dogs don't just see us as a food dispenser, and they don't just see us as other weird-looking dogs. They possess a specialized space in their brain entirely, exclusively dedicated to loving us. This deep, hardwired neurological attachment really explains why the moment of reunion is so emotionally charged. As neuroscientist Giorgio Valortigara notes, the separation from the owner for the dog is not voluntary. When we come home, we aren't merely walking through a door. We are actively resolving a deeply unnatural state of isolation. We're relieving an evolutionary tension that goes against literally thousands of years of pack mentality. And that is exactly why your homecoming is often an absolute whirlwind of wagging tails and dropped groceries. The sheer chaos of a dog's greeting is driven by a massive explosion of sensory stimulation. Suddenly they are hit with your scent, your voice, your touch. It's this overwhelming relief from anxiety combined with the joyful anticipation of positive experiences like a walk or a treat. In that single chaotic moment, the entire structure of their world, their pack, is instantly made whole again. Often, all this sensory overload results in what scientists technically call FRAPS, frenetic random activity periods. But you and I know them better as the zoomies. That sudden, hilarious burst of frantic running, spinning, and joyful squealing, it's actually a highly efficient biological release valve.
Their nervous system has generated an immense amount of pent-up emotional energy upon your return, and a dead sprint around the coffee table is simply the fastest way for their body to process and expel it. Amidst all this chaos, you'll often notice another really specific behavior: the frantic face lick. And this is a fascinating evolutionary holdover. When your dog licks your face, they are directly mirroring ancient wolf pack dynamics. Out in the wild, when adult wolves return from a hunt, subordinate pack members will swarm them and lick around their mouths. It's a social greeting for sure, but it's also a request for the returning wolf to regurgitate some of the food they just caught. So today, it's a sweet sign of affection, but historically, it's a polite request to share whatever you've been eating out there in the world. Now, once the initial chaos finally settles down and you sit on the couch to pet them, this beautiful biological cycle takes over. It's called the oxytocin gaze loop. Studies have shown that when a dog and a human make meaningful eye contact, the brains of both species are flooded with oxytocin, what we often call the love hormone. This chemical release triggers further affectionate behavior, which releases even more oxytocin, mutually reinforcing your bond on a molecular level. It's actually the exact same chemical pathway that bonds human mothers to their newborn infants. But it's important to remember that this biological harmony isn't immediate for every dog. Behavioral data reveals a significant difference in how dogs process this reunion. For a calm dog, their nervous system regulates in about 4 minutes. But for a dog suffering from separation-related behavior, the stress doesn't just magically vanish when the door opens. They struggle to self-soothe, taking over 8 minutes to exit that high-stress state. For them, the anxiety lingers like an echo long after you've taken off your coat. And this brings us to a critical realization about our role in their emotional lives: the mirror effect. Because dogs evolved alongside us for tens of thousands of years, they are intimately skilled at reading our facial expressions and body language. If we walk through the door carrying the tension of a bad commute or a really stressful day at work, our dogs act like emotional sponges. They absorb that tension. They look directly to our posture and micro-expressions for cues on how they should feel, effectively carrying the weight of our emotional baggage. Because of this deep connection, we have a real responsibility to them. If you want to soothe an anxious or overexcited dog, you absolutely must actively project a calm, predictable presence. Behaviorists recommend a specific protocol here. Before you even turn the key, take a deep breath. Consciously relax your facial muscles. When you step inside, deliver a warm but calm verbal greeting. Acknowledge them so they feel seen, but keep your movements natural and purposeful. By grounding your own energy, you are doing so much more than just saying hello. You are rebuilding their trust and showing them that the pack is finally safe and at peace. It's an incredible dynamic when you really stop and think about it. We leave our homes to navigate a complex, highly stressful human world, while they wait behind a closed door, literally smelling the air, counting down the chemical seconds until our return. As we consider the profound neurological and emotional depth of this interspecies connection, it leaves us with one powerful lingering question. When that door finally opens and the joy erupts, are we just rescuing them from their daily isolation, or in the end, are they truly rescuing us from ours?